Okay, hello everyone. It's 2 o'clock on the West Coast. Dr. Patrick Scott here. YouTube Live, it's Friday, the 21st of February, 2025. Lovely to see you all. We're going to continue our conversation today about the intersection of science and spirituality. And I was watching a really interesting, I'm kind of a Netflix junkie, and I love documentaries. I love, like I said last time, all about the pyramids and things that are spiritual. And I was watching this murder investigation about a missing child. And again, as you know, I teach psychic development. I teach people to shut the fuck up and to listen to their gut. And I don't remember the name of the Netflix documentary, but it was essentially a woman who gave birth to a child and then gave the child up for adoption. And this particular documentary spanned 40 years or more of the woman's life, and then the child's life, and then the child went missing, and the adoptive parents. And the story was that this woman, the biological mother, really lost touch with her daughter and really wanted to connect and reached out, I think, on Facebook to try to connect with the biological daughter and got nothing, but then realized that at age 14, the biological daughter had gone missing. The whole documentary is about the search for this 14-year-old and certainly putting a highlight on missing and exploited children, which I work in here in Las Vegas, human trafficking and such. And so this woman, and I'm always amazed about psychic stuff, and when I say psychic, I believe that everyone is psychic. I believe that everyone has an intuitive body. I believe that we all have a physical body, right? We have a mental body, our thinking. We have an emotional body, our feelings. We have an intuitive sense somewhere in there, and that we have a spiritual connection. That's my belief. You don't have to agree with it. And what I teach and the foundations of what I teach really kind of piggyback on that I believe that we're all born with an incredible connection. We're born, and that as children, we're very psychic and very intuitive. And then as we start school, if we've had imaginary friends or if we've been kind of connected to the other side, we learn to shut that down as we learn consciously and conscious mind and all that kind of stuff. We learn how to manage our emotions. We go through traumas, our bodies and our minds mobilize defense mechanisms, PTSD, anxiety, depression. And so certainly I work squarely in the realm of mental health, mental physical health. And I work actually in two camps, if you will. We're going to talk about both camps today. I am a doctor and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am here at the clinic. In fact, I'll show you, I kind of like to show my office. So this is the clinic, and there's the microphone for the boom mic that's going to hopefully be set up next week. But I have this beautiful courtyard here. That's where the patients sit over there. That's the little door. People go, "Gee, I thought you were really important. Your office is so small." I said, "Yeah, it's really small. I like it. I like it. It's very cozy, very small. I do see patients in here. I do supervisions in here and the like." And so this is what's called in Medicaid terms a Type 14 behavioral outpatient network, by the way. And we see clients, we see patients, we have medication, we dispense medication, we give injections, we see, we have 28,000 active patients. And I get pushback. I go, how can you possibly have 28,000 active patients? Well, I every morning when I check into the electronic health record, and we just have a new electronic health record in the last year that we've installed, we've implemented. And every morning at the bottom of my login as the clinical director, it says, you have 28,814 active patients in the system. And so it's not an exaggeration. I'm sorry. And people go, well, how is that even possible? Now, we don't see 28,000 patients a week. That is a patient that's ever been seen once. That's somebody who's ever had any appointment at all. And I feel like I have to justify it because it does sound like a really outlandish number, but that's the number. lots of providers, lots of rooms, lots of, that whole thing. And so, squarely in the realm of, and I teach, and I'm on the faculty of universities, medical schools, teaching social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurses, advanced practice nurses in psychiatry, and so on. Right. So, you know that story. So, I don't need to go into that. But that's what we do here. And it's very Western. What I mean by that, as opposed to Eastern and esoteric, it is legitimate. I am allegedly legitimate. I have degrees and licenses, and I've published, I've done studies, I've researched, I'm a scientist. And I'm saying this tongue in cheek because I am also way out there. I know I look kind of normal. People go, "You're just so white and normal." And so when people come to me and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna share something really outlandish with you," or "You're not gonna believe this, but let me tell you." A couple things I say is, number one, I've been a Las Vegas therapist for 25 years. Do the math, you know, meaning, do you think you're going to share something with me that I haven't heard? And typically people will be very, ashamed, and they come into treatment and they're ashamed about sexual matters or drug related matters or financial matters or business or career or depression, anxiety, you name it. And the cool part about having been a therapist for so long now is it's not so much that nothing shocks me. I have empathy and I really feel for people, but that my job is to normalize their experience, meaning, um, it's okay. You're not a freak. Maybe you are, but we're all freaks, right? And so when people kind of have a first impression of me, maybe they think that I'm kind of square because I'm older, I'm kind of older and established. And when people come in and say, "Well, I want to talk about, you know, the other side," or "I want to talk about spirit guides," or I had a woman years ago, and I've told this story before, so some of you have heard it. She came to me, older woman in her late 60s, and this was a while ago. This was 10 or 15 years ago, and she had just lost her mother, and who was in her 90s. And she said she came in and she said, "I'm having a hard time grieving, with the loss of my mother. We were so close, and I feel like her presence is around me." And I said, "Awesome." She goes, "Really? Awesome." I said, "Yeah." She said, "You don't think I'm crazy?" And I said, "Well, no, no. Why would I think you were crazy?" She says, "Well, I went to another clinic and I saw a psychiatrist, and told the psychiatrist that I feel that my mother's presence is around me. She passed away a couple weeks ago. That psychiatrist said, 'Well, honey, you're crazy. Let's get you on some medication.'" And the woman did not want medication, so she, did not fill the prescription, and came here to Heads Up and saw me. And this is important when we talk about the intersection of science and spirituality. I love what Keanu Reeves said recently, in the last year or so. Keanu Reeves is an actor. If you've been on the planet for the last 30 years or so and you've seen any movies at all and you're not in a cave under a rock, he was in The Matrix. He's John Wick, Wick, right? The movie's John Wick. He was in Speed, Sandra Bullock. He was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure way back when. And like him, don't like him, he is considered to be a really nice guy, a humanitarian, a philanthropist, lives very simply, and I admire him. And I know people who know him personally. I don't know him personally, but I have interacted with people in Hollywood, celebrities and things who I have interacted with who say he's just the sweetest guy in the world, super mellow. And he said something in the last year. He goes, "I'm at the point and he's about my age. He's probably in his early 60s. And he said, I'm at the point in my life, if someone tells me that 2 and 2 is 5, I let them have it. And I mean, they can believe whatever they want. They can believe anything that they want. I'm not in the position of changing people's model of the world. Now he didn't go into that much of an explanation, but his live and let live. And there's some great pictures of him helping homeless people. And he's just and takes the subway, gives up his chair for, and he has an energy about him. And we can talk about that as well, where a lot of people don't recognize him because he's very good at modulating his energy. And so, a lot of celebrities really, walk out into public with the glasses and the fancy clothes and the fancy cars and the entourage as if to say, "Look at me." And apparently, he has no entourage. He doesn't, he's just super humble. And I really believe that. I really believe that he is super humble. And I really love that about him. And I do love his work. I'm not a big John Wick fan, but I was certainly a big Matrix fan. And I was a big Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure fan. Amber. Loved that movie. Super cool. And so my point is to say that I am open to all of it. And it doesn't cost me anything when someone comes into my office to say, gee, this is going to sound really weird, or wow, you're going to think I'm crazy. Now, crazy is a subjective term. And technically, it's not very politically correct to call people in my business crazy. I think that we all have our moments, right? Now, there is a distinction between profound mental illness, developmental disability, and psychic awareness, intuitive awareness, things like that. Now, in ancient times, so the one camp that I'm sitting in right now at the clinic, very Western. And what I mean by Western is researched, evidence-based, cognitive behavioral therapy, all sorts of theories. I have all this college, all these degrees. I hire and train therapists of all kinds. People come here to do their internship, their practicums, their residency, their clinical rotations. I just met with the graduate students today. We have a doctorate candidate in advanced practice nursing. We have many graduate students at the various levels who are studying here under me with our population to learn more about mental health. Now, I hypnotized a client yesterday, and this is fun for me. They think I'm very square. No, that's not fair. I don't want to put that on them. They only see this Dr. Scott. They only see me in the Western, with the badge and all that, like hospitalizing people and signing charts and doing all that kind of stuff. They don't necessarily see the esoteric side. So my other hat, if you will, of the hats that I wear is that I'm a Kumu of Huna, which is an ancient collection of shamanistic tools. And I studied for many years and was awarded the designation of Kumu, which in the Hawaiian culture is a great honor. It's actually an honorific title. If you've studied martial arts and you've gone to a dojo and you have a sensei, it's like that. It's like master. It's not just, oh, teacher, random teacher. That's not a small thing. So to be a Kumu in that culture. So I'm very honored to have that designation. And those tools have afforded me, the entree into the esoteric realm. And that isn't just psychic phenomena necessarily, but it's energy work, it's hypnosis, it's neurolinguistic programming, it's forgiveness, it's release of negative emotions, it's contacting spirit guides, channeling, doing psychic readings, depossession, removing entities, and on and on and on. I was going to go blah, 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 on and on and on. And where I am right now, like Keanu Reeves, is I don't need you or anyone else to believe any of it. I'm not here to prove anything. All I know is that it's really fun for me to dabble in both worlds, right? And to transverse both worlds easily and effortlessly. So last night, 5 p.m. session. So what is it today? It's 2 o'clock on Friday. Thursday, my last client of the day, a veteran who is struggling with some negative thinking, suicidal thoughts, destructive thoughts. He has horrible PTSD from his combat and service connected military career. He's in his mid 30s. He's married. He's got some kids. And he specifically asked for hypnotherapy. In this building, if you ask for hypnotherapy, you get me or you get Colleen, my business partner, who's a fantastic hypnotherapist. So we have done about 4 or 5 sessions. And not surprisingly, it's very difficult for him to go into trance. These guys, gals, are hyper vigilant. It's not safe for them. And I mean that in a very generic sense. They have proof that the world's a pretty scary place. They have proof that people die. They have proof and have been assaulted and shot at and blown up and all this sort of thing. And so this guy, we've done, I'm going to say 5 sessions now, and we have I've recorded things for him to practice at home. He's very diligent, and he's still having a hard time going into trance. So at each session, I adjust the script, I adjust the induction to take him deeper and deeper. Well, last night, a graduate student who has no experience or has never been exposed to this came in and sat in with his permission. And she was cute. She said today she was reporting out to the other graduate students saying, I had no idea what hypnosis was. I had no idea what trance was. And I went to a place I've never been before, meaning I knew I wasn't asleep. I didn't notice the passage of time. And I saw things and colors and things that were going on. And it was really a powerful experience for her. And the patient himself also said that he had gone, he continues to go deeper. And we continue to strategize about how he can support himself overnight with sleep and with affirmations and with recordings. Because I send him recordings. Now, this recording that I made last night is over an hour long and is about a half hour of word, induction to take him down, and then just a half hour of just new age music to help him, get into trance. And he's noticing now in session 5 that he's not suicidal, he's not homicidal, he's not having some of the negative thoughts, and that to the extent there are negative thoughts, they're happening less frequently and they're happening with less intensity. And that's all we can hope for. So, hypnosis is not it's not a quick fix. It's not in a joke. I wish I could slap you on the forehead and heal you in one slap. I would certainly write the book and retire, charge a lot of money. But it is another healing tool that is really very powerful. So Amber has a question. Is there a conflict of interest between your students and the patients, between them being both, I mean? Well, so that we talked about that today, Amber, actually. And we talked about this idea. One of them said, well, can I work here and be a patient? And I said, no, you can't. This student that was sitting in was for the purposes of her learning. So she's shadowing sessions and going through the session. And so there's absolutely no conflict. She's not technically my patient, nor could she be my patient. And one of them asked today, can I be seen here for medication and also be a student? No, we're very strict. We're very strict about those rules. We did have a veteran a couple of weeks ago who was ready to do her clinical internship. And she said, I want to stay in the group, the veterans group. I love it so much, and I want to do my internship here and be supervised by Dr. Scott. And I said, no, you can't. And I gave her the choice. I said, you need to terminate your treatment here. We can do that however long it takes, and then we need to wait a certain amount of time, usually 3 or 4 months, and then you can start here as an employee if you want to. But yeah, we have, and I'm glad you asked that question because we have so many rules really for the protection of the patients. So everybody that works here, even if they're a volunteer, they have to sign non-disclosure agreements that everything is absolutely kept top secret. They are not permitted to talk, about their patients, and we certainly guard and do our very best to protect the privacy. Um, and so I can study HUNA under you and still be a patient, or a vagus resident. Clarifying, that's also a good question. You could, let me think about this. The question is on the table, could a student also be my patient? That has happened where I've had a patient and then they've come to a class. You know what? It does happen because I teach the larger class in Hawaii. And I want to make a distinction between a client and a patient. So I have coaching clients and I have students and I have graduate students and I have employees and I have psychotherapy patients. And so I notice that my coaching clients are also students that will come to HUNA or come to my classes around the world, wherever. Not very frequently. I mean, I can count on one hand where this has happened, and it's truly not a conflict. For example, right now I'm running a master class for advanced practitioners. We meet monthly for 2 hours. I always make a big deal. HUNA in Hawaii is coming up in March. Many of them will be there, right? Now, these are students. They're going to see me at HUNA in a larger context, 200, 300 students. I will be lecturing and doing classes, and I will have those students in those classes. I always pre-frame for them that please don't be offended if I don't call them out in class, if I don't recognize them, that we have a different kind of a relationship. Now they're not patients. To say, Amber, that you're my psychotherapy patient is okay. It's up to you if you would be comfortable going to a class with me, knowing that my commitment to you is that I wouldn't identify you, I wouldn't call you out, I wouldn't, it's really the right of the patient to determine. For example, if I'm in a community, this is a relatively small community. I know it's a big city, but I'm recognized frequently on the street and in the malls and in restaurants. Because understand, I've been here for 25 years. I've seen, well, now tens of thousands, maybe, I don't know, a lot of people. And so it's always incumbent upon the patient to guide the conversation. I went to a restaurant with my son, and it was one of these local pubs here. And this is funny. I had just finished my last client, patient, really a patient. And again, I use patient and client interchangeably. And for us, a coaching client is a client and a psychotherapy patient is a patient. But really, there's a lot of overlap. So sit down to the restaurant. It was a local pub, and up comes the mother of the patient that I had just seen at 4 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, I'm in a bar, in a pub, and apparently the mom with her 15-year-old, we did a family session at 4 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock or 7 or whatever it was, the mom is my waitress. And it was so cute because she looked at me and her eyes got real big. Now, my son has no idea, right? He's just doing his life. And I just looked at her and I smiled and said, "Hi, would you like a drink?" And we just did that thing. And it was so cute. She did not acknowledge me. I did not acknowledge me, even though she gave me kind of a knowing glance. And then the following week at the therapy session, she said, "Did I act okay?" And I said, you as the patient are the one that holds the privilege, meaning you can say anything you want. She didn't bring it up. I didn't bring it up. But she could have just said, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Scott, we just saw you a couple of hours ago. Isn't that great?" Would have been totally fine, right? It's not about the disclosure, it's about the relationship. Meaning, we in this business cannot have dual relationships. You can't work for me and be my patient and be an intern and be a volunteer and paint my house and do my laundry. We have to be very strict about that. I have one relationship with you. So if I'm your teacher and you take this class and that class and that class, totally fine. If you're my patient and you want to attend a public community class, I can't stop you. And there is no violation. And you get to say, "Wow, I work with him one-on-one," and you're going to say he's amazing, I would hope. And then, but I do like his classes as well. No conflict. You can be my student and take my classes online. You can be on the YouTube Live and also be my patient, right? And so that works, but it's really up to the patient. Our guideline ethically is that I don't share anything. And that gets awkward for people because people will see me at HUNA and they'll want, I don't know if they want special treatment, but they would like at least for me to acknowledge our relationship, and I don't. Not publicly. I would never. And so that is for some people kind of weird. Okay, I hope that answers your question. So 2 camps, science and spirituality, work in both, comfortable with both, love both. And what I'm noticing is that as we get more advanced in science, science is validating spiritual matters. And so I want to get back to this documentary I was talking about. So, woman gives up her child, is seemingly spiritually connected to this child, reaches out on Facebook and learns that her child has been missing for quite a long time. And long story short, has an intuitive sense that the adoptive father killed the kid. Now, I'm not going to give you the name of this thing. I don't want to be a spoiler alert. I don't want to tell you what happens, but it is an exercise. She has an intuitive sense that the kid is dead. She has an intuitive sense that the biological father killed her, and she has an intuitive sense that he buried her in the backyard of their house. And for like a long time, like years, she goes to the police. The police, of course, say there's nothing we can do. We have just your intuitive sense that the child is dead. Child's been a missing person for decades, like since 1989 or something. The child's been missing, and so this is in the 2000. This is only a couple of years ago. She's saying, "I know this, and I know this, and I know this." Of course, the police can't dig up a guy's backyard based on this intuitive sense of this mother. Cutting to the chase, years later, there's some compelling evidence about other crimes that this guy has been involved in, that they do get a search warrant and they do search the backyard and they do the ground penetrating radar called LIDAR, and they get a cadaver sniffing dog in the backyard, and they find nothing. And what is so powerful about this woman is her conviction, her absolute conviction. She was not daunted at all. She wasn't slowed down for a second. Now, bear in mind, she gave up her child for adoption. And I think the kid was 18 months old. And lots of feelings about that. She's not on good terms with the adoptive parents. She's accusing the father, the adoptive father, of killing and burying the child. And she's public about it. And she's taken out billboards, and she's harassing this guy on Facebook like crazy. And actually, the police do come to her at some point and basically say, you better cease and desist, or you're going to be in trouble for harassment. Knock it off. Well, this guy ends up committing crimes throughout in other jurisdictions, and lo and behold, recently, so the kid went missing in 1989, I think 2020 or something. They have reason to believe, because of a crime that he was proven to have committed in Virginia, and this was in Michigan, I think, that they go back to his backyard and they find the remains exactly where she said they were. I mean, the exact spot where she said they were. And it was all intuition. It was all mother's intuition. And so what I loved about this documentary was she was made out to be crazy. I mean, really. I mean, people were sensitive to her, that she was concerned about her daughter and her missing daughter, but she never wavered for decades, never wavered about that. She knew he killed her. She knew where she was buried. She knew how he did it. She knew exactly the spot. And there's all this video, because she was documenting everything, she's pointing at exactly the spot. She got a drone. And I mean, this is an older lady, she got a drone. She's really obsessed, and she looked really crazy. I'm going to get to the punchline here in a minute. Looked really crazy, sounded really crazy. People were empathetic, and I was appreciative of how they treated her. Well, some of them called her crazy. And she was vindicated in that this child was buried exactly where she said she was. He killed her exactly in the manner, and killed her in exactly the time and date. And every single thing she intuited was absolutely 100% accurate. Now, of course, he was convicted and is serving multiple life sentences now. What I want to go back to is much of the stuff in the esoteric realm we can't prove, right? If you look at Newtonian physics, you look at Darwinian science, the challenge coming up in the centuries was the spiritual sutras, the Bible, the Quran, the Talmud, the Dead Sea Scrolls, whatever, had ideas, Christian ideas, Judeo-Christian ideas, Muslim ideas, fantastic stories. In my own Buddhist practice, we have, the Gosho that Nichiren Daishonin wrote. We had the Lotus Sutra, talks about a ceremony in the air, and it's fantastic. I'll just give you a tidbit of the Lotus Sutra. Apparently, we all got together in time in the remotest past, and we all got together and decided to do this in the latter day of the law. So now, millennia ago, Amber, Josh, Michelle, all of us decided that we're going to get together in this time period, and we're going to help the planet. And there's this, description of this very amazing ceremony in the air, like on the other side kind of thing. And it's echoed in the Quran and the Talmud and the Kabbalah teachings and the sutras and the Vedic sutras. These kinds of things. We talked about the Kumulipo, the Hawaiian creation chant. We talk about the Big Bang theory. And so these things were all happening at the same time. What's happening now with CERN, right, the particle accelerator in Switzerland, with what's the one? I was going to say the Hubble telescope, the Webb telescope. We're seeing things. We're learning things. I told you last time about Einstein predicted this pulsar activity that was just validated like in 2019. In 1916, he said this is the kind of way planets will da, da, da. They're proving it. And again, I got all excited and it's like, I love this shit. And I love this shit. And I'm in the middle of this shit. And it's such wonderful stuff because it's coming together. Now, you all need to get out of this idea that you need to prove your experience. You heard me do it a moment ago. I say that Heads Up has 28,000 active patients. I've gotten pushback. I've even had Colleen look at me and go, well, that's really kind of an inflated number. Well, Colleen, I don't know. We spent a lot of money on this new electronic health record and we moved over almost 30,000 records. Do the math. Well, that's really just not 28. I don't care. And anymore at my age and my generation, like Keanu Reeves, you want to say 1 and 1 is 5, have it. You want to, and so what I'm not doing anymore, and I haven't done it for a long time, is I don't doubt or question or criticize anyone else's experience. It's not my place. And my place is to help you decide what's real. Okay, another example. My point, I think I'm finished with that documentary. And I don't remember the name of it, but it's really good. It's on Netflix. It's about a missing girl, and I can't remember the name of it. I just finished it last night. A young man, 30-ish, veteran, comes to us, believes he's possessed, believes he's had an entity since he was 4 years old, has horrible panic attacks, horrible anxiety, has dreams, much like dreams of the monster in the closet, the monster under the bed. Many children have dreams about monsters in the closet, monsters in the bed. Clowns and It and Stephen King have not helped children, in my mind, be not afraid of clowns. John Wayne Gacy was not helpful in helping us not be afraid of clowns. Clowns are creepy. So anyway, he has done his military service. He's a high-functioning adult, and he goes to his therapist here at Heads Up. I think I have an entity. I think I have a demon attached to me. And I see it in my dreams. And it just scares the shit out of me. And it has scared the shit out of me since I was 4. So I am looking at oh, Candy's here. Yay. Hi, Candy. Hi, Amber. Nice. So he schedules an appointment with me. He's agoraphobic. He won't leave his house. We're on telehealth. We're on the video like this. And I tap in and I say, oh, yeah, I can feel a presence. I can feel an energy. He looks at me and goes, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I'd like you to come into the clinic to do a procedure with me in person. But I said, we can start it now. And he said, well, and he hands it on, and I didn't know that he was agoraphobic. I didn't know that he has a hard time leaving his house. So he said, well, can we do it now? And I said, well, it involves some training. I said, it's kind of weird. Sorry, I'm going to chant in ancient Hawaiian. I'm going to yank this thing out. I'm going to say some words that your conscious mind is not going to understand. Is that okay with you? He goes, dude, take your best shot. I have lived this. I'm 35 years old. I've lived with this thing since I was 4 years old. Please, I don't care. And what I'm noticing about the veterans that are coming into our program, we have about 200 of them now that have gone through the program. They are so desperate. They are so, desperate. They don't care. They've tried everything. They've tried the groups. They've tried the meds. They've tried the VA. They've tried everything. And that they are so desperate. They're hurting so much. They do not care if I'm chanting in Hawaiian. They do not care if I'm asking them to meditate. They do not care if I'm sending recordings home for them to listen to. They are absolutely so grateful and so appreciative for whatever. And the shit works, right? I wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So this young man is, I just have him get quiet and I say, okay, do I have permission to tap into your energy? He goes, yeah. I said, let me know when you feel it. He goes, I feel it. I said, okay. So I do the ritual, which is like an exorcism. I'm sorry. It's not a Catholic exorcism. It's a Hawaiian exorcism. And I do the procedure and I yank it out and I remove it. And when I feel it leave, he stands up. Now remember, he's on Zoom. He's seated at a desk with his computer, right? And he just stands up, and I lose him. He leaves the frame for a while, and he's got his headphones on so I can hear him. And he's really agitated. And I said, are you there? Are you there? He goes, I'm here. I'm here. I just needed to get up. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. I said, okay, well, take your time. I said, I want you to tap in and see if that thing is gone. Because that's the whole point of this, right? You wanted this energy to be out of your sphere, out of your body. Let's do a quick scan. And remember, I'm not upset. I'm feeling great because he's going to get rid of this entity that he's had since he was 4 years old. And so he sits down, he goes, what the fuck was that? And I said, you tell me, what the fuck was. He goes, okay, I need to cut to the chase. I would rather people think I'm crazy than to think that that thing was real. You need to tell me, was that thing real? And I said, well, it was real to you. He goes, did you see it? I said, well, yeah, I saw it, but I see shit like that. He goes, are you kidding me? You saw it? I said, yeah. And he said, tell me what it looks like. And I told him, I said, star, it's kind of amorphous and it's got loose features. And I described this thing. And he goes, exactly. You saw it too? I said, yeah, I did. And I said, and I pulled it out and I sent it back to source. And it's on its way, continuing its evolution. He goes, and you're not scared? I said, no, I'm not scared, because we have so much more power over these disembodied thought forms than they do. But I've been doing this a long time. And he and understand, so from a conventional Western psychotherapeutic point of view, this is some weird shit. From a Huna shamanistic energy work spiritual point of view, this is another day, right? This is just Thursday or Friday. It's just, oh, do you have an entity? Let's get it. And so what I want you to understand is that I didn't need him to prove it to me. I didn't need to prove to him anything. And so I think I freaked him out. I haven't seen him since. I did check with his therapist. I'm pointing to her office because it's right next door to mine. And I said, did he ever come in? Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, he's fine, but it did freak him out. He's fine. It's gone. He's not having the nightmares anymore. He's not having the bad dreams anymore. He can validate and verify that whatever that was is completely gone. Well, that's all I want. Now, he's never made another appointment with me. I think he's kind of scared of me. And that's okay. It's okay. I wanted to prepare him more. You heard me say I wanted to have him come I wanted to talk about it in our telehealth session, tell him what I was going to do, send him some recordings to practice with, to hear the chanting and all that kind of stuff, and then have him come in for an in-person session and do it in person. And we ended up just cutting to the chase and doing it like that. And so my point with you guys is, resist the need to feel like you have to justify yourself or explain yourself or prove anything. I don't feel like I need to prove it anymore. And at my age and my generation, I have fewer people challenging me. I had a lady once, a number of years ago, and I've published in the arena of neurolinguistic programming in a number of arenas, and I've done studies. And I had a lady come up to me at a class, and it was an NLP class, actually. It was a neurolinguistic programming class. And she said, where's the research on whether NLP works or not? And I said, well, I've done some of it. I've done some of it, but here's some books and here's some research. And, yeah, well, I've read all that. I don't believe it. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. You can do your own research if you want. And so anymore, and I remember, and I've used this as an example before. Some of you will remember Larry King, who was a newscaster. He's retired a number of years ago. Well, he had on his show Deepak Chopra, Sylvia Browne, James Van Praagh, Brian Weiss, and some skeptics. And so there was the psychic intuitive group, which, I mean, Deepak is a doctor, Brian Weiss is a psychiatrist, James Van Praagh is a psychic, and Sylvia Browne is a psychic. And then they had this guy named James Randi, and there was this other guy, I forget his name. And the whole counterpoint was, and it was so contentious. I didn't like it. It was very uncomfortable because the James Randi got on and said, well, Sylvia, if you're so psychic, what am I thinking right now? And it was very angry and very contentious. She goes, it doesn't work that way. Now, Sylvia, not literally with a cigarette and a bourbon in her hand, but her voice is kind of gravelly. You see this metaphorical or metaphysical bourbon and cigarette, and really kind of raspy voice. Honey, it doesn't work that way, But he was challenging, Deepak Chopra, who's, a New York Times bestselling author, who's a medical doctor. I mean, he's written amazing books on quantum healing and things like that. Brian Weiss, board certified psychiatrist. So they had a nice panel kind of talking about, this was at least a decade or more ago. And the point of the show was, the skeptics saying, "Oh, well, how can you prove this?" And I had a student not so long ago, because in my psychic or my coaching program, I will have students. A lot of doctors come to my things, and he goes, "I've done the math. A lot of Sylvia Browne's predictions didn't happen. In fact, and he said something like 60% of them were not true. They didn't, she made predictions every year, psychics do, and 60% of them were just, they just didn't happen, or they weren't." And I said, "So you're going to throw out all of Sylvia Browne's life of work? You're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater." And this is what I want to impart to you. I think today we can validate or prove anything. You can find information on the internet to validate or prove or disprove anything. And so each of you need to come to your own conclusions about what is right for you and what is good for you. And anymore, I am increasingly suspect of anything on the internet, really. And so there was a guy that I'm following. I think it was a financial guy. Yeah, it was a financial guy. And I follow him on YouTube. And his disclaimer at the beginning of every one of his videos is, "I'm going to offer you some ideas around finance and financial planning and this and that thing. But please do your own research. Do not take anything that I'm saying as the gospel." And this guy happens to be very qualified. He's a certified financial planner or something like that. But he always starts with, "There's so much information. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Find out your own things." And my son Josh, who's here today, and by the way, www.drpatrickscott.com is the website. It's not new, but he has recently fluffed it up. It's beautiful. And I want to really acknowledge Josh right now, because he is such an artist and he has done such an amazing job with this website. So just take a look at it, drpatrickscott.com. I mean, my God, the videos of Hawaii and I mean, it's a work of art. So it's beautiful. So take a look at the new website. And it's not even really a new website. He's just been fluffing it. And so I'm really, really proud of it. And Amber said it's such a pretty experience. I mean, he's got videos of the ocean and Waipio Valley and Hawaiian luau's, and there's good pictures of me finally. It's just really remarkable. So take a look at it. I really love that. And Amber says about my guy, he's recovering, I imagine. Good stuff leaves quite a hole. And I think you're right. I think it was so shocking to him. I mean, what's left? I can relate. Yeah. Freed from night terrors. I suffered for 20 years. Good for you. And so what Josh said recently, which I thought was really good, and I'm using it with some of my teenagers and with people who challenge me, and teenagers can be challenging. There's enough information out there now that really pretty much you can find information about anything. And so I used to get, my joke is, of course, because I'm in a generation when, and I was telling the graduate students this, we were talking about how do you build rapport with children. You're a therapist of a certain age. How do you build rapport with teenagers? Really with anybody, but a lot of times, adults are kind of like, okay, we're adults, we've had experiences, but it is difficult to get into the mind of a child or get into the mind or the experience of a teenager, because someone like me is having a very different life experience than a 13-year-old. So I do my due diligence and I try to learn a few things about what life might be like for them right now. And it's helpful. And it just takes a little bit. And so my joke, of course, is, and teenage girls just think I'm awesome. I don't know why, but they think I'm so cool. I don't know why, but they just seem to gravitate. Teenagers in general think I'm cool. And I'm flattered. And so one of my things, in spite of myself, so with them, I joke about Madonna or Cher or Tina Turner, and they go, "Who's Tina Turner?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You don't know." So then I'll put Tina on in session. I use humor. I'll put a video of Tina Turner on the computer and I'll show them, one of her private dancer or whatever her, things. They'll go, "Wow, she's really cool. Why don't I know her?" I said, "Well, she died a few years ago." "Oh, she's really cool." And then they share with me Taylor Swift or BTS or some of their Sabrina Carpenter. and we have this exchange of who are they following, who am I following, and it just takes a little bit. Now, I don't play video games at all. I never have. I am just old enough to not have ever played video games. It's just not something I've ever done. But I have kids and grandkids that play video games, and I can quote Pokemon Go, and I can quote Final Fantasy, and I can talk about a few little things. I exhaust my vocabulary very quickly, but what's fun for them in the terms of building rapport is that I even care to say, talk about Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft or Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. Because remember, the sessions are not about me. It's not about what I know or don't know. It's that I can relate to them in some way. And so when a teenage girl, a 13-year-old comes in and is, 13-year-old girls. All of you have experienced a 13-year-old girl. Let's see if I can do my eye roll. Whatever. And they're morose and they're grumpy and there's boy issues and there's parent issues. And one of my favorite, and I offer this to you if you work with children, one of the greatest things the psychic reads that you can do with a teenager is, and I do this every time, I come in and I say, "Hi, how's it going?" "Fine." And they're looking down. "What do you want to talk about?" "Nothing." "What's it going?" "Fine." "Anything you want to talk about?" "No." And I'll just cut to the chase and go, "Let me guess, your mom's a bitch." And they go, "How do you know? Oh my God, you're so psychic. How do you know my mom's a bitch?" "Oh, your dad's an asshole." It's just, and they just think that's the coolest, you know. And then they know that I'm not going to share with their mom or their dad or what's going on. And now, just to be clear, I'm not reading that their mom's really a bitch. It's just a safe bet that if a teenager is in therapy, the number one relationship they're working on is their parental relationship because teenagers are challenging, parents are trying to set limits. You get the drill, right? And so um, I will. Now, in spite of myself, this is funny. I had one girl, 15-year-old, a few weeks ago, and I said, "What kind of music do you like?" "Oh, you wouldn't know." I said, "Well, try me." "Oh, I don't know. You wouldn't know." And I said, "Well, how about do you like BTS?" "How do you know?" "I love BTS." I said, "I was really excited when Jin got out of the military." "You know that Jin got out of the military?" "Yeah, I do." What did you think of Golden? What did you think of the Times Square performance that Jungkook did standing next to you? And they look at me like I'm an alien because I'm speaking their language. Now, that's the last thing I say, and they're off to the races. I happen to now like BTS. BTS, by the way, is a Korean boy band. There are 7 of them. Most of them are in the military right now. Jin is the oldest, was discharged from the military in the fall. There is a timer and a counter because in Korea, there is compulsive military service of 18 months, I believe. And so there is a timer of each one of them when they go in and when they come out of the service, right? Now, these men are in their 20s. They're young Korean men. And the fact that I would know anything about a 20-something Korean boy band. Now, I am not saying this to impress you. I'm saying this that actually they're really good. If you want to see, it was funny. I was just telling Rick, my partner, I was like, these guys are amazing. He looked at it and he says, it reminds me of the dancers in Las Vegas back in the day, where they're dancing and they're just it's complex dance moves, and they're absolutely in sync. It's like they're just all doing the same thing at the same time. And then other people have said it's just like Michael Jackson. So if you go back, Rick is going back to the 50s and 60s Las Vegas shows. Other people are going back to Michael Jackson and Prince and other people. And again, it's all how you do it. Now, understand that's a spiritual connection. When you can make a connection with something and you can speak a language that they understand. The Asian dancer Blackpink, not sure if you're thinking it's Blackpink, Amber, could be. Rose is another wonderful Korean dancer. And this is funny to me that I know these things. In spite of myself, I'm a Swiftie. Sorry. I I just I'm sorry. I love Taylor Swift. I didn't think I would get there. I love BTS. I love K-pop. Some of you remember Psy. What is the guy? Gangnam Style. So years ago, Korean kind of frumpy guy named Psy, PSY, did this one-hit wonder Gangnam Style. He has made a career out of this one song, kind of like the Macarena back in the day. So this guy made this thing. Well, he's doing his concert in some huge arena. It looks like 75,000 people, and one of the members of Suga from BTS makes a guest appearance. It was brilliant because you've got the hot young guy, right, coming onto the stage of this kind of older, aging Korean performer. Now you could all be saying, "What are you doing in Korea? Why are you following Korean K-pop?" What I don't know. My point of the whole story is that if you want to connect with others, you need to speak into their model of the world. And I think what happens with older people as we age is that our world gets very small. Now, the cool thing about the internet and our access to information is that we have the connections. And I think we had a conversation. This is funny. We had a conversation in group supervision today. This is case conferencing where all the clinicians get together. We talk about cases. 15-year-old male on the spectrum, autistic. Parents bring him in because they say he is addicted to porn. So here, fix my child. He's watching porn. Now, all of us are like, he's 15. How bad can it be? So, the therapist is, we present the case to the whole group and then we talk about it. We give advice and it's not just me. It's all of us. We're all kind of sharing, and it's called case conferencing, right? 15-year-old male having some thing with fascination with porn. And we kind of go, well, yeah. And 15-year-old boys are kind of interested in sex. Well, it comes out that he's bisexual. He likes men and women. Okay, that's great. He's 15. And then we checked to see, was there a religious thing? Is there some prohibition on sex? Nope, no religious prohibition, but the parents are concerned because he is watching porn. And they want, and then we find out like how much. Well, a couple of times a week, maybe a half hour. And we all just kind of went, that's not an addiction. That's not. And then we look at what are the clinically significant impairments. Nothing. He's doing great in school. He's an ROTC. He's getting great grades. He is autistic. He's in a mainstreamed class. This kid's a rock star. He wants to go in the military when he graduates, And so our job then is to help the parents understand what's normal and what's not. That a 15-year-old is interested in sex would be normal. That given the access of the internet to pornography now, if it's, there are things. And so then a lot of us ask questions. Is he, because he's autistic, is he doing inappropriate things in public? Is he doing any sort of inappropriate touching? Is he masturbating in public? I'm sorry, but this is kind of what we get into. And no, he's a good kid. He's a good, healthy kid. And so then we help the parents. We educate the parents that, a couple times a week, a half hour to look at porn, is not, it's not the end of the world. Transfer that to video gaming. Parents bring their kids in here all the time. Johnny's addicted to video games. He's playing an hour a day of video games. Like putting that out to Josh. Now, Josh is very balanced. He's not addicted to video games, but he and his brother and his biological father get online in the evenings and they play video games. I have a son at home, Chris. He plays games all the time. It's not toxic. Kids are on screens. We're on screens right now. I recommend us balancing this experience with nature and with getting out in the sun and looking at the ocean. And I try to as well. That's just good, healthy balance. But our lives are on screens. That's where, and I have my, my phone that I really like, and I'm looking at it all the time. I've got my Apple Watch here. So I'm surrounded with screens, and I'm 65 years old. I think it's great. We just turned our 86-year-old good friend onto Facebook. And she has an iPad, and she lives in Riverside, California, and she's newly on Facebook at 86. She's having a blast with it. So have fun with it. Okay, so Amber's parents were 70s Vegas entertainers. Awesome. I'm just looking for any questions before we conclude. Really do check out the website. We have a lot of offerings coming up. I'm just really proud of it, and so thankful to Josh. And you'll see him if you want to learn about it. He's created a Meet the Team page, so you'll see Michelle there, you'll see Josh there, you'll see me there, and I'm really proud and happy to have him on the team. Very proud of his accomplishments. He's quite brilliant. So with that, I will conclude today, and we will see you next time on a beautiful YouTube Live. Be well.